tortured to death in Alabama, the state's brutal experiment in execution. The state of Alabama carried out the execution of Anthony Boyd last night, and it was anything but humane. What unfolded behind prison walls was a horrifying display that challenges the very definition of justice in America. After years of botched lethal injections and public outrage over failed executions, Alabama introduced a new, supposedly humane method of execution: nitrogen hypoxia, or suffocation by nitrogen gas. Officials claimed this approach would end legal disputes over cruelty and ensure a painless death. Instead, it has exposed a new, darker form of torture. The idea for nitrogen hypoxia was born not from science or medicine, but from an opinion piece written nearly 3 decades ago by a California screenwriter. The 1995 National Review article, Killing with Kindness: Capital Punishment by Nitrogen Asphyxiation, suggested nitrogen suffocation as a clean and peaceful alternative to hanging, electrocution, or lethal injection. The concept was eventually adopted by Alabama lawmakers, eager to escape the controversies surrounding previous botched executions. That experiment has now failed catastrophically. Last night, Anthony Boyd, a 54-year-old inmate convicted of a 1993 drug-related murder, was strapped down in a gas chamber at Holman Correctional Facility. Boyd had always maintained his innocence, and he repeated that claim in his final words, but his protest fell on deaf ears. Reporters and witnesses described a nightmare. Boyd's body convulsed violently as the pure nitrogen filled his mask. According to Alabama journalist Lee Hedgepeth, Boyd gasped for air more than 200 times as his eyes rolled back, his chest heaved, and his body strained against the straps. His death dragged on for more than 30 agonizing minutes, making it the longest, most torturous nitrogen execution ever recorded. It was not the first time Alabama had tried this method. In January 2024, Kenneth Eugene Smith became the first person in the world to die by nitrogen asphyxiation. Witnesses said he thrashed uncontrollably for several minutes before going still. Despite widespread condemnation and legal challenges, Alabama pressed forward with Boyd's execution, apparently determined to prove that its new system worked. Instead, it proved the opposite. Boyd's death now stands as evidence that Alabama cannot carry out executions without violating the Eighth Amendment, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. But Boyd's story is also one of courage. During his decades on death row, he served as chairman of Project Hope to Abolish the Death Penalty, PHADP, a prisoner-led organization devoted to ending capital punishment in Alabama. Through this group, Boyd mentored other inmates, published a newsletter titled On Wings of Hope, and became a voice for those society had forgotten. "I'm in a battle for my life and justice," Boyd wrote in his final editorial for the newsletter. "I would love to tell all of you that truth, justice, and human dignity will prevail, but we're in Alabama, where such things are few and far between." He continued, "We are not outnumbered. We are just not organized. Keep fighting and keep hope alive. Be the other voice until you are heard." His words now echo like a moral indictment of the system that killed him. Boyd was not naive about the risks of his advocacy. Fellow inmates said prison officials questioned him repeatedly about his involvement with PHADP, yet he refused to stop. His life's mission had become greater than survival. It was to dismantle the very machinery of death that the state would ultimately use against him. Even in his final hours, his determination to expose injustice never wavered. When his case reached the U.S. Supreme Court, Justices Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan dissented from the court's refusal to halt his execution. Sotomayor's words foreshadowed exactly what happened. "You want to breathe, you have to breathe. But you are strapped to a gurney with a mask on your face, pumping your lungs with nitrogen gas. Your mind knows the gas will kill you, but your body keeps telling you to breathe. That is what awaits Anthony Boyd tonight. In allowing Alabama to proceed, Sotomayor warned the court turns its back on Boyd and on the Eighth Amendment's guarantee against cruel and unusual punishment. Her prediction proved chillingly accurate. For centuries, America has searched for a humane way to kill human beings. From firing squads to gas chambers, electric chairs to lethal injections. Every new method has been promoted as clean, efficient, and civilized. Every time, it has failed. Nitrogen hypoxia is merely the latest chapter in this grim cycle, a scientific veneer over state-sanctioned suffering. The truth is simple. There is no humane way to kill a human being. While some politicians still defend the death penalty as justice for victims, the reality is that executions like Boyd's inflict suffering not just on the condemned, but on the witnesses, the corrections officers, and the moral conscience of society itself. Boyd's death may yet have meaning. His writings and advocacy continue to circulate among abolitionist groups, reigniting debate about whether states should ever be trusted with the power to kill. The number of executions in the U.S. has been steadily declining over the past 2 decades, and several states have abolished the death penalty entirely. If Alabama's latest experiment proves anything, it is that cruelty cannot be sanitized by science or justified by law. Anthony Boyd's final legacy may be to expose, in excruciating detail, the lie at the heart of capital punishment, that there is such a thing as a humane execution. In the long run, his words, "keep hope alive," might achieve what his death could not, an end to the death penalty in Alabama, and perhaps across America.